is November 7th, 2023, and I'd like to welcome you to the Select Board meeting for the town of Wenham. My name is Diane Bucco. I am the chair. I'm here with
Peter Clay.
Deirdre Parati.
Gary Cheeseman.
and Ben Timon will join us shortly. We also have our town administrator and staff in attendance. So I wanted to begin the meeting today by expressing gratitude for my fellow Select Board colleagues and actually all of Town Hall staff for their dedication to Wenham. It's truly the commitment that allows us all to move forward towards greater accomplishments. I think things are going really well here in Wenham, so I just wanted to mention that. So it is just 6:30, called to order. We're all here. Public input. Is there anybody in the house that has anything they want to mention today? Bring up? Nothing at all? Okay. No one's on the Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
Okay, we can move on to TA Steve's update and town announcements, please.
Wow, it's been so long since we had a 6:30 start.
I know. It's pretty early.
We're already doing it an hour. Right. Yeah, okay,
Do you have,
cool.
put the microphone closer to you so that people can hear you?
Yeah, a few things this evening. One thing of note we've been talking about is the police secretary has been, the candidate was identified and an offer was extended and accepted, so that's great. We've been really needing this position for a long time, years, and the chief set up an outside interview panel that was made up of three executive secretaries in other police departments and a police chief that did the first round of interviews, and then they provided the police chief and the deputy with two names, and they interviewed them and settled on obviously one, and she's been doing essentially the same job at another community for, I won't mention because in case she hasn't given her 2 weeks notice yet, I want her to give the person the opportunity to sit, but been doing it for about 10 years, the exact same job, public safety, billing, payroll, all that type of stuff, so there's a lot of extra education around public record requests as they're specific to police requests and what need to be redacted and what can't be released in reports. So I think it's going to be a good fit. We're excited for her to start with a tentative start date of the 27th of November. I believe that is a Monday.
That's great.
Yep. And I just want to let you know the CPC, the eligibility, what is it called? The pre-eligibility form submission is due on the 15th. And as of right now, I believe they only have two.
Really one officially. We're expecting more on the way, though. A couple more on the way.
So it seems like it could be a light-ish year for the CPC. We haven't heard anything from the museum yet, and we haven't heard anything from the schools. And then, going back to the budget calendar and, the town meeting calendar. So on the 17th, the planning board is going to be discussing inclusionary zoning. So that will impact the calendar moving forward. If they decide to move forward with that, to ask for that to be on the town meeting warrant, that will set in place a number of public hearings that will need to be held as defined by MGL. And when we're looking at next steps for the budget, so we've been working, we sat with Sean Timmons and went over the Pleasant Pond numbers, the data that were gathered by the lifeguards. So the lifeguards were given clickers at the beginning of the summer and kind of tally sheets, and were asked to tally the amount of folks that were on the beach at certain, every couple hour increments, and then how many cars were in the parking lot. And it was pretty complete. I mean, there were some days missing. They're just younger kids, but I think the data is good enough that we can make an educated decision. So that will be coming before you on the 21st, along with any final asks from the departments and any updates that will be made in the budget in the meantime. That will be an opportunity where the board can ask any questions then we will essentially table it for the next 2 weeks. And then on December, the first meeting in December, the board will vote on the budget to send to FinCom for their thorough review. And on the, also on the first meeting of December will be the financial overview, or the financial summit that we implemented last year. And again, that's really not budget specific, it's more higher level, like revenue estimates overall, expenditures, various budget pressure points with our fixed costs, and some benchmarking to communities. And we're hoping to incorporate some performance metrics with data that's readily available in the departments, things like, you know, COA, how many meals did they deliver, you know, how many seniors did they service, how many miles of road were paved with the DPW, things like that, data that's readily available, and work to build that out over the coming years. But this will be the first time they've kind of reported on things like that, so that's how we're gonna start. And then, so that is, and then the, Jeff, it's slipping, is it the first, what Saturday did we end up
9th?
deciding on?
December 9th?
Was it the 9th?
Sense.
Yeah, I think it was, we moved it out 1 week from the
Yes,
first
exactly.
weekend.
We went from the second to the ninth.
Yeah, okay. So the 9th will be the budget hearing. So that will be kind of the first,
Actually, I think it's on we had it on the 16th,
okay, so the 16th. Is
unless we,
According to the calendar here, it says the 16th.
that, okay, so 16th
Okay.
will be the Saturday budget hearings. And that really, you know, that will be, the departments will be all there, and we'll make probably presentations like last year. However, we're hoping to get out of the weeds a little bit on line by line expenditures, and spend a little bit more time on performance and, you know, higher level visions in future years, and things that they see that's going to be coming up. And then, so the Sean Davis shed down at down at the park, I believe it's going to be hung next week. We're not going to do a ceremony at this time. DJ Landscaping is going to help with the hanging of the sign. And then in the spring, we're going to try to do some sort of a ribbon cutting on the first grass cutting day. They could like cut the thing and bring the lawnmower. I don't know, something like that. But the board can attend, and we'll do something like that. So we figure just where the weather's getting kind of crappy now, and everybody's getting ready for the winter, we're just gonna get the sign hung, and then once it's all hung up, and we'll do something in the spring. Then just something to note, the Monday, November 20th is another Quint board member, Diane, for the schools. So that will be the chair of the FinCom, chair of the select board in both communities, as well as the school committee, and Eric Tracy. And then I'm just pulling up, I believe, the
7th?
29th, yep, 27th.
No, you were right, the 29th.
Yeah. I'm getting
Is it
thrown
everybody?
off here. Yeah, the 20th is the second quintuple board meetings, and then the 27th, 29th is the all boards meeting. So that will be full boards on the 29th. It's 8:30. It's 6:30 to 8:30 in the Bucher multipurpose room. It's a Wednesday night. And that is all I have for you this evening.
Great. Anyone have any questions for Steve? Pete, you have any announcements?
So, last week, I guess, a very good friend of mine is very involved with Harbor Lake Homes. So he set up a tour for me. And it's amazing how beautiful that building is. And all that's in there. And then they're going to landscape the heck out of it. So, Deirdre, they're going to put a ton of trees, so you're not going to be able to see it.
Awesome.
And in fact, at the next meeting, they're going
Hemlock
to come and
trees,
give us
palm
like
trees?
a 10 to
what kind of
15 minute update on where it stands. And the one thing that they impressed upon me, which I'd forgotten, or maybe I never knew, is they actually pay taxes.
Harbor Light,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, it's good.
It's good.
so it,
Good all around.
it's amazing all the good that they do in terms of how they take care of people and families.
It's good to know.
They're very, very resourceful in
They
being
are.
able to get the funding and
So
get
I-
these projects
I
done.
think we may get a dose of Andy, can't remember his last name, but he may
Yeah,
be
good.
presenting.
Perfect.
So that's for next meeting, you think? Beautiful. Deirdre, do you have any announcements?
Yes, I'd like to, is Ben here yet? No.
No, do you want to wait?
I'll go ahead, but
Okay.
I was hoping he'd be here. So I want to say thank you to Chief Kavanaugh and the fire department because they were very generous in inviting Ben and myself this past week to watch the Jaws of Life training that was conducted just behind Town Hall, and it was really amazing, I have to say. It was quite an experience, and it was extremely sobering to see what they have to think about and what they have to contend with. And of course, it was a nice night. It was cold, but talking about if there's ice and snow, and if people are trapped against the telephone pole, and the way they have to think about the equipment. And the equipment is great, by the way. It was purchased with the ARPA funds, as I understand it. So they were working with the new equipment. So that part was great, but very sobering to really think about one being in that position and having to be extracted, and also what our first responders have to contend with. It was really instructive, and they were very generous and gave Ben and I a chance to actually try one of the pieces of equipment. So that was kind of thrilling, I have to say. So really, thank you to all of them. It was fantastic to watch.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's
it was
really
great.
cool.
And then I just want to give a shout out and congratulations to the team at Stage 284 at the Community House, because they put on another terrific production of Oliver the past 3 weekends, actually, with an adult cast and a youth cast. And the youth cast had one of the starring roles, Wenham resident Cecilia Crockett, and she did a fabulous job. So really wonderful addition to the community.
Great, thanks. Gary?
Unfortunately, I bring sad news tonight that yesterday the Veterans Committee attended the interment of Dr. Richard Osgood. Dr. Osgood was a citizen of Wenham, spent his retirement years here, and spent considerable time on the Wenham Veterans Committee. He's a graduate of West Point in 1965, and I'll just take a minute to read through part of the obituary of his extraordinary life and science. Rick graduated from West Point in 1965, elected to be commissioned into the Air Force. He was assigned to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where he co-invented the high-power carbon monoxide laser and took evening classes to earn a master's degree in physics at Ohio State University. Applying to PhD programs, he was awarded a full Hearst Scholarship for a doctoral study at MIT. At MIT, Rick worked in the research group of Professor Javan, contributing to the breakthrough advances in laser science. Rick was awarded a PhD in physics from MIT in 1973 and immediately went to work for MIT Lincoln Laboratory. In this group, Rick co-created the field of laser-induced photochemical deposition and reactions on surfaces and was awarded the John Guggenheim Fellowship. Across his entire professional life, Rick was a pioneer in the rapidly expanding field of lasers and conducted both pure and applied science with lasers, such as the creation of a new solid-state laser in the quantum electronics group. Rick transitioned to a full professorship at Columbia University in 1981, and 1988 was appointed the Higgins Professor at Columbia University, where he created and directed the Microelectronics Science Laboratory. Although an academic, Rick also contributed to pure and applied science at the national level, participating in multiple studies during the summers for the Defense Advanced Projects Agency, DARPA, and in 2000 he became the Associate Director of the Brookhaven National Laboratory, one of a handful of American national laboratories with advanced synchrotron facilities leading to worldwide research. So I'm sure the One Select Board joins in extending our condolences to the Osgood family.
Me too, that's quite a resume.
Quite the resume. Very nice person as well.
Yes.
Anything else?
No?
I just wanted to shout out a few just announcements. Wreaths Across America is happening again on December 16th. It's a Saturday, and donations are being taken. Information's on the website. Bag leave pickup are Saturdays, November 18th and December 9th. The MBTA, what's the word I'm looking for? MBTA
Forum?
forum training, MBTA,
Oh, the public hearing.
the public hearing for the MBTA zoning issues is coming up on Tuesday, November 14th. That's going to be at Bucher, I believe. Yeah, so it's an informational session. A lot of residents are most likely interested in what this all means. So it's probably a good one to try to go to. Will we have a consultant there that day, or is it just the planning board running that?
It's just the planning.
Just the planning board, but we do have a consultant working with us on that?
Yes.
Okay.
We have
Thank you.
more than one.
Oh, I should have asked you, for sure. Hazardous waste collection, always a popular one, is this Saturday, Veterans Day, 11/11, from 9 to 12 at the Hamilton DPW. There's also a veterans event at the, my gosh. I can't-
Cheeseman, and then back here.
So there's breakfast at
The American Legion at 8
American
to
Legion at 8
10.
to 10, and then we'll be
Pingree
at
Park
Cheeseman,
at 10:15 and 11
at
at the War Memorial, followed by
lunch at
lunch at Fire Station at 12.
So I remembered the breakfast and the lunch. You guys had all the other important stuff. I also, Reese, I wanted to mention that there was some interest in the farm lease, the Reynolds farm lease, which comes up how many every year? How many? Every 5 years. So it's just a recurring thing that has to come up every 5 years. It's not that the food project is necessarily leaving. They just have to reapply. Thank you. And the other thing I want to mention to remind the select board, as well as for all town employees and committee and board members, the townwide training is scheduled for January 24th. It's a Wednesday, 6 o'clock, on open meeting law with our town council, Lauren Goldberg. So that's when we want to get on the books so that everyone can be there. Those were all my announcements, I believe. I don't know if I forgot anything. The Celtics lost, so I couldn't think of anything else. So we'll go to new business, and we won't even talk about the Patriots. We're going to accept a gift or talk about a gift from a Cheryl Refuse, I'm sorry if I said the name wrong, owner of Plant Magic Gardens, to remove invasive plants from West Wenham Park. I don't know much about this, but this sounds extremely exciting and fortuitous for
wonderful.
us.
Yeah.
So Kate, tell us.
So basically, Plant Magic Gardens, Cheryl had come to us last year, and what they do in their off-season, so they're very busy in the summer, what they do in their off-season is they find areas where there's a lot of invasive plants, and they notice at West Wenham Park there are a lot of invasive plants, and we actually knew that because in our park revitalization plan, we have over $7,000 to get rid of the invasive plants as much as possible. So Cheryl and I spoke, and she offered to volunteer to take care of the area for us. So if you go to the next slide. She's got a great group of volunteers already ready to go. So with your approval tonight, if you approve of this, they would start on Sunday, and they would come every Sunday from 10 to 12 to the park. And they're using a method without herbicides. So they'll either pull the invasives out and then leave them, or they'll cut the invasives. And then they have committed to come back every year and do follow-up for it. So it's great for the community. What that does, this method, is it encourages native plants to grow. There's more light and all the great things. So it's a wonderful opportunity for the town. It will save us money in our budget for the West Wenham Park. And it's a great low-impact way to get rid of the invasives. Also, while she's doing that, she'll be giving education to the volunteers on invasive plants. And then she couldn't be here tonight, but she did want me to tell you guys that she does do for-pay things as well. So if we ever want to get training in invasive plants and do some invasive management plans in town. We've got a lot of Japanese knotweed going on in town. We've got a lot of invasives happening in different areas. It would be great for DPW too, to know how to handle these sort of plants. So with your approval, we would love to accept this donation.
So where's she getting all her volunteers?
She has a group of volunteers that help her every single winter. So she's got people that work with her, and they'll volunteer in the winter to help pull these
She's
plants.
actually done work on our property, and
She's done work
very
in
sharp.
Ipswich before. She's trying to get another job. I think it was Ipswich as well. There was another big place she was looking, so that's why she's only committing to Sundays, because she might do some more on Saturdays on other places too. So it's her passion.
It's wonderful. Any other questions or comments?
Fantastic.
Yeah,
It is
it's
super
really great.
fantastic.
We're
And
very
now
lucky to
if
get
we
this.
know that she's there every Sunday, it'd be a great time for anybody to go down and meet her and kind of learn, because we all have this stuff in our garden.
Oh, yes.
And it's a safer way to get rid of it. It's
Yep.
really neat.
She was even teaching me how to properly get rid of the bittersweet off my property. So it's great. It's a wonderful opportunity for Wenham.
Wonderful.
We actually have some strategies in the master plan that refer to invasive species and trying to plant native, so this is great.
Yeah, definitely.
Goes right along.
Are we
Keep her in mind.
interested in a motion? You the motion man?
I am.
Okay.
I move that we accept the kind offer of Cheryl Refuse of Plant Magic Gardens to help remove invasive plants in West Wenham Park.
Second.
Any other discussion? We can vote.
Gary, yes.
Deirdre, yes?
Diane, yes?
Pete, yes?
It is unanimous. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
I'm looking forward to meeting her as well.
She's really
Yeah,
interesting.
thank
That's
you.
awesome. Thank you. B, we have an appointment to talk about for the Open Space and Rec Committee. I think that's why Kate's standing here, from Gunther Anger, who had a really great letter that was brought to us. Let me throw it
Yes,
to you.
so Mr. Anger apologized. He could not make it tonight. He did make it to our last Open Space and Recreation meeting, and so the Open Space Committee was able to meet him. He actually participated. It was a great kickoff meeting for our West Wenham Park engineering that night, and so he got to, for the first time, see the plan that we're proposing, or that we're going to do for the park, and he was so thrilled of everything that's going on. He actually lives on Topsfield Road, not far from the park. So he was a financial planner for many years and then transitioned his career, and he owns a mobile bike shop. And so that's what he's been doing for many years now. He's all over the Northeast, including doing many different activities in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And so the Open Space Committee unanimously voted to bring it to you to have him be part of the.
So why does Abby Fellow Mobile Bike Shop sound familiar?
Because you see the van all the
The
time?
van is everywhere. You can't not see it now.
Wasn't like a town issue or anything at one point?
No, I don't think so. They did do a great new bike day. I don't know if it was at the end of last school year or the beginning of this school year, Ride Your Bike to School. She had all the police there, and all the kids rode their bikes to the elementary schools. But no, I just see their van. And it's just one van, but you see it everywhere.
Yeah.
It's really neat.
He's all around.
Are we ready for a motion on this?
Yeah. I move that we accept Gunther Anger to be appointed to the Conservation and Open Space Committee.
Effective November 7th for a term ending June 30th, 2024.
Second.
Perfect. Anything else? Gary?
Yes.
Deirdre, yes?
Diane, definitely yes.
Peter, yes?
Peter, yes. It's a unanimous vote. Thank you so much,
Thank you
Gunther.
all.
And Kate for presenting that. So let's go down to C. TA, to provide an update on our goals and objectives. Mr. Steve.
Yeah, so I'm gonna use the template that we utilize in our goal setting. It was designed by Deirdre, and then she updated it. So I'm just gonna use that. I'll take it from the top and provide a status update on all the goals that we set. So the first one is website redevelopment. So that is a team effort. It's led by Ben, who's not here yet, but Michelle, Kirsten, Joe, and myself are all on the team. We've now reviewed 3 different companies. We've had demos by all 3. We have price proposals from 2, and we're in the final stages of pretty much deciding what product we want to go with. Just doing some additional homework on Civics Plus, which is the other one with revised, and calling in a number of communities and just trying to really do our due diligence on, in sales meetings, they promise the world, and we just want to make sure that, they're as functional and easy to use as they assure us they are, and that their, customer service is as good as they say it is. And just, get the general overall sense of how the communities like the product. It is by far and away the most popular product in Massachusetts. However, it is also the most expensive. So before making that, financial contribution to that plan, we want to make sure we're doing the right thing. Communication plan. So we set probably, I believe, about a month ago, we finalized our communication plan, and there's associated policies within that plan, and additionally things in that plan that we're looking to implement somewhat hinge on the website redevelopment. So some of that plan is in limbo. However, we have delivered on the plan itself. Rewriting and updating personnel policies, that's ongoing. As you know, there's, every couple of meetings, 1 or 2 new ones come before the board for adoption. We're building that library in the background for that. Job descriptions update, that Joe is leading that. He is currently working with a number of employees working on updating their job descriptions, and that is, in my opinion, on track and will be completed by the end of the fiscal year. The updated org chart has been completed. The employee evaluation policy has been started. So what we did is we established, essentially like part B of the review, where you would, in theory, I guess, well, the way I envision it is having a performance evaluation in part 1, and then the second part of that evaluation is goals and objectives that you set during your prior year's review. So since we didn't have a prior year's review, we sent out what I'm believing to be part B of the performance review, where all the departments have sat with them and have set goals and objectives for everybody that would typically have a performance review. So those are done, that's in writing, they've been filed, and now I'm working on coming up with effectively the part A, and that will be the evaluation tool that will be used in conjunction with the goals and objectives that have already been set probably in June or July, somewhere in that time frame. Recognition program, I do not believe there's been any move forward in that yet.
That was a 2, though, right? I thought we were just going through ones.
Yeah, yes, anything
Okay.
that has initials next
Yep.
to it, I'm
Okay.
just updating it. So some of the stuff doesn't look like it. And the budgetary software transition, so that's definitely on our radar and something we're going to be talking about in the capital planning, probably with the website, as well as implementation costs for both of those. And those are appropriate uses of capital funds, so in our case, free cash. So if the board decides they want to move forward in the website, potentially budget software, this, it would be appropriate to fund it through the capital warrant article. So that is definitely something that we're pricing and targeting for this year. Financial policies, that is, I have started drafting them. However, just with the budget season, kind of coming in and not having a finance director, I've tabled that until Jeff gets on board. where I could really just use the extra capacity with, you know, going between the two boards and the amount of time and commitment that it takes to kind of to work between the two. So I'm looking forward to some assistance on that. Trash collector and alternatives, we have met with Casella. He actually owes us a report the first week or two of November here, so I don't have it yet, but this is one he said he could give us. What we're looking to do is hopefully, if we have it in time, add a slide to the financial summit that will not really identify alternatives, but to start to educate the public and ourselves, really, I'm learning as well, is the components of our trash fee. You know, some are tonnage that fluctuate with the market, some are processing fees that are locked by, defined in the contract, some are recycling costs, which fluctuate again with the market. So, you know, all 3 or 4 of the different components equal our total bill, which is about, I believe, about $500,000 a year. So we're going to start educating on what that is, what the fluctuation is, what's the market looking like now. If we were to renew, you know, if we were to renew tomorrow, we still have about 2 years, a little less. If we were to renew tomorrow, you know, what type of increases are we looking at? So just to get that discussion going. Grant proposal policies and procedures, I have not started that. Obviously, still definitely, you know, in the targeted to be done by the end of the year, but that is not an initiative. I have not picked that up yet. Create the IT plan. So as we discussed last week or the week before, where, you know, neck deep in that creation of the IT plan. Having another meeting with Colby and Danvers tomorrow to go over kind of, you know, implementation timeline and things like that. So we're definitely getting close to having a tech plan to present for adoption. And, you know, that kind of all flows through with the fiber connectivity, which we talked about. We've already had that mapped in a cost estimate. Data center refresh, that would be part of moving to the virtual environment. And then security, Joe gave an update on that. He spearheaded pretty much the security part of it, so we've migrated to O365. We've implemented a multi-factor authentication. And anything else I missed, Joe, on that?
Nope, 2-step, yeah, 365.
Those are things the town has been talking about doing for a number of years. So those are all done and behind us. Now we just have to pay for the licensing, and that will be part of the tech budget this year. Let's see, review and update committee charges. That is, I know Gary has been working diligently on that, and I believe has an update tonight on that. Training, Robert's Rules in OML. I know Diane established as TA, but Diane has established a training date. So that is underway. We also had another one over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that we're trying to do, you know, probably at least twice a year. And standardized committee officers' roles, supervised bylaw change. That is, I believe, part with Gary. We'll speak to that tonight, or at least start that conversation. Town government study committee, town charter, that has not been discussed. Beverly Airport Commission, Wenham seats. I have reached out and introduced myself to the new director. However, we don't have a meeting yet set on the calendar for that discussion. And that is the update.
Pretty much wraps,
Just the miscellaneous.
we didn't get to the
Oh,
other
did I
page.
miss a page?
I was gonna say, it pretty much wraps up our work.
Oh, oops. Oops, sorry. So established climate action committee, that's
Right.
been on, that'll be on tonight. And tree inventory and planting, that I have not started with. That's something I'll have to connect with
Next
Kate.
meeting.
Pleasant Pond operational study that, as I mentioned earlier, will be presented to you next meeting. Modernization of the select board conference room. Again, that just keeps kind of falling on the prioritization level, but we're trying to get it up there to select the furniture and present it to you again for a final selection and ordering of the tables. And iron use best rail study if iron rail, excuse me, I'm all right. Iron rail best use study is well underway. So I think it's going really well. And we're months out from being done, but we've done a significant amount of work up to date and are continuing to work on that.
Great.
Comments, anyone? Pete?
It's a lot of work getting done.
Yeah. David?
Great progress.
Moving ahead, more
Moving,
than tonight.
moving on. Gary's already got a bunch of things to do after to add to the list. Great. Steve, thank you very much.
Yep.
I'm hoping that it's okay with everybody here if we alter our agenda a little bit. Ben is not here yet, so we kind of want to skip E for now,
Attendees
Gary, if
this
that's all right,
evening.
and go to F.
Michelle, attendees.
What do you want to skip? D, me, and go to E?
We want to skip,
Oh, he
E.
wants to go, he needs
To
to
go to F.
recuse
F,
himself from E.
so we'll
if
just,
we want to take E now, and then Gary, he wants to be here for Gary's.
right, so we're going to skip E, which is Gary Cheeseman's presentation, and go to F, which is the Iron Rail Soccer Fields.
Yeah,
right.
skip D and go to E.
Skip D.
We just did
It
D.
doesn't match. I think it doesn't match the agenda.
Doesn't really matter, so we did
Okay.
that. So we're
Okay.
going down to discussion and potential vote on whether to extend Iron Rail Soccer Fields lease agreement as is, or enter an RFP process to implement potentially necessary changes. So I'm going to throw that to you,
Yep.
Steve, to chat a little bit about.
Yeah, and Lou, feel free to jump in anytime, but essentially the goal of tonight, to bringing this up, is, so we've had council review the existing lease. If a lease totals $35,000 or more in total over the entire life, so if it's a 10-year contract, you'd multiply the annual fee times 10, which in this case is $5,000 a year. So it exceeds that $35,000 threshold. So according to mass procurement law, to make any changes, we have to go back out to bid, so it'd go through the RFP process. There is the option in the lease to extend it as is with no changes for another 10 years. However, staff is recommending that we take the RFP process, not that we anticipate any other users will come forward, but however, it will allow us to have the flexibility to build such things in as an early termination clause where the iron rail study is ongoing, and 10 years is a long time to be locked in, so we don't know what's going to come up with that. And then a clause that more clearly defines how the field's use will be prioritized in the event that the town school district may need to use it. However, I want to preface that with saying that the Hamilton Wenham School District is going to need to use those fields over there this spring and also in the fall, and we're not trying to build this in because the current lessees are unwilling to work with us. They've been very willing to work with us, and we've had a good meeting about it, so I don't think it's going to be a problem, but you don't know what the makeup of the next group will be 5 years from now. It's really just something that kind of came up that I think was unanticipated, and it wasn't really clear in the lease whether we had any right to the field or not. And, there may be some other things as well. Okay.
Any questions on that? So,
Questions from Lou? Did the Iron Rail Commission,
We did not. We
Right.
did not discuss this.
okay.
well, certainly I would think that the RFP process is the way to go, given the long alternative term of 10 years and the fact that although the youth soccer has maintained the fields great, that there has been over the years some questions as to subleasing and the payments and so forth. So I think we ought to do the RFP because I don't know of any competition in the end result, but I think that's the way to go, just to review the terms.
I think it's a good practice to reopen it after so many years. Anyone have anything else? Is this a vote? We need a vote for this. Yep, so we could take a motion.
I move that we follow the RFP process for the iron rail lease.
Second.
Any more comments? We can take a vote.
Gary, yes.
Deirdre, yes.
Diane, yes?
Peter, yes.
Okay, so that's a unanimous vote to go with an RFP. So let's chat a little bit. You know what? I'm going to go down to G, if that's okay with you all, and go to the discussion and potential vote to sign the MOU to rectify the Step 3 grievance filed by the police union on 8/7/2023, so that maybe we can do the other two. Maybe Ben will be here in that time. So Steve, can you talk to us about? He's not here yet. He's not here yet.
Okay, yeah, sure. So this, by way of background, this is a grievance that was filed, 8/7 of 23. According to the agenda. So this was something that it was brought up to the police chief and then went directly to the select board, and ultimately, according to the collectively bargained agreement, the step 3 of the grievance should have gone to me. So we did bring it back to step 3, and I reviewed the grievance and found that their concerns were founded. And effectively what happened was back in 2021, the select board at the time were petitioned or asked by 3 new officers to review their pay and provide a pay adjustment in accordance with, or to take into account their prior work experience, whether in another community or through the military. And the select board approved what essentially amounted to step increases to essentially acknowledge some of their prior performance, not all of it. And the 3 officers had 3 different amounts of experience. So the officers were placed on, the motion was to place them on 3 different steps, where the one with the most went to a step 4. The one with the middle went to a step 3. This is all starting from a step 1. And then the one with the least went to a step 2. However, when it was processed through the police department, it was processed as they moved all 3 officers to step 2. And it stayed like that. Nobody realized, the officers didn't realize what happened. And that was it. And they were paid that way, in essentially 1 or 2 steps below where they were awarded from the select board for a number of years until now. So the resolution to this is to provide back pay, because they are due it, and the amount is roughly $15,000 for Michelle Princey and $5,000 for Officer Phillips.
Any questions? Let's take a vote, a motion.
I move to vote to sign the memorandum of understanding to rectify step 3 grievance filed by the police union on August 7th, 2023.
Second.
And no more questions, I don't assume, so we'll vote.
Gary, yes.
Deirdre, yes.
Diane, yes.
Peter, yes.
That's a unanimous vote to sign the MOU. All right, so let's go upwards now and deliberate and form and vote to finalize a list to identify community needs to present to our state reps to see if they could help us advancing our interests at an upcoming meeting. So I guess this is to chat with Representatives Sally Kierans and perhaps Jerry Paracella.
Right.
But before we make that meeting, we should probably have a list of what we want to talk about.
Right. So
Any ideas?
I sent what Eric Mansfield had sent me
Okay.
about House Bill 3550. Did anyone look at that? So
Wait,
here's the summary.
Okay. Oh,
And
House
this is from the Mass Water-
3350. Massachusetts.
I wrote it down, MWWA,
Yeah,
shoot.
the MWWA.
In summary, MWWA believes House Bill 3550 would add further burdens to the Commonwealth's water supplies and the residents and businesses that they pay local water bills. Public water systems are mindful that climate change is creating new challenges for the operation of a public water supply, and we must all work together to ensure the resiliency of our water systems to withstand the extremes. We are skeptical this legislation will achieve the goal of maintaining stream flow during droughts. We appreciate Rep. Kastner's very active involvement in the task force, and we urge the committee to leave it to the task force to decide the best solutions to addressing issues in the Ipswich River Basin. For many reasons we've outlined in this letter, we respectfully request that the committee give House Bill 3550 an adverse report. Thumbs down. If you have any questions, we would be happy to meet with you to discuss our further concerns. Thank you in advance. And then the second thing that Eric sent along was the fact that Sally Kieran signed Bill 3550.
Okay.
So we need to talk to her about that.
Okay.
She's basically undermining what Bruce Tarr's trying to get done.
And I don't remember you sending me that. I'll have to check my emails again. I'm sorry.
I didn't receive it either.
Okay.
Steve, did we not send that out?
I thought we did. We didn't, my
Okay.
bad. I will forward it.
Yeah, I'm a little confused.
I'll send it to you guys.
Yeah,
I can't
so-
send it to you guys.
So
Look it up right now.
that's a good topic to bring up. So we would want to talk about, we should bone up on the bill.
I'm just so
Okay.
surprised because she's showed up at a number of these Bruce Tarr task force meetings.
But what is the bill trying to do?
It's basically jamming down the throat of all the towns that are part of the Ipswich River Watershed Association. Just legislation that's going to stop what Bruce Tarr is trying to get done. And the real issue there is that we need Salem and Beverly to change the way they use water. And that's what Bruce Tarr's been
Right.
doing.
Interesting. Okay. So that's one. Water is definitely huge. We'll have to look into that bill, bring that up to her. Any other ideas for our reps?
Well, Sally Kieran's was at the COA meeting, the group there, and expressed her support for any projects in the green area. Mike Hardy happened to pass by, and they were talking about the resetting of the electrical capacity at the Council on Aging building. So that's a possibility that we may be able to get some assistance from the state on that as a one-time project,
Yeah.
upgrade the capacity there.
Like a new service and
I think it was the
that too.
amperage wattage, a technical update of the panels.
We should get more information from Mike, so we have all that. That's a good one. Anything else?
We could probably bring forward, Kate's not here, that bioretention system that we had almost gotten funded. a year
And that's
ago.
at retention.
Oh, that would be great.
At
Bucher.
at Bucher.
Yeah.
Because it'd be like a joint, it'd be an educational piece for the students and a teaching tool.
Right.
So it would help our stormwater runoff
And
problem
get
over there.
Mike McDonald off my back.
I thought about the house on, I meant to get the number on.
24 Cherry?
Right.
24 Cherry.
Exactly.
24 Cherry, to do something with it, either fix it up, use it, sell it,
Is that the
something.
DCAM
Turn
property?
it over to us.
Is that the what?
Is that the DCAM property? The DCAM property?
Yes, that was previously used as what, a group home or?
Group home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I
is-
would, yeah. I'm
I
sorry,
think
go
you
ahead.
made several phone calls or emails.
Yeah, I've even talked with Sally, and has, met a dead end there
Yeah.
too. So I mean, I don't think her dead end is, I think that she's bringing it to other levels, but she's tried to reach out and has gotten nowhere.
It's
I know
craziest
the
thing.
office has reached out 3 times, 4 times with no response.
Over the
And
years.
then we
you
brought
know.
Carrie, it was just over in the last year. And then we brought Sally Kearns in, and she tried to reach out, and she said that they're kind of giving her the silent treatment.
It's the strangest thing, because it's just one small property, like, but anything else? So that's 4 so far.
How about the MBTA program? Because one of the things that's true is we don't have enough water or sewer system to add to all those houses, homes.
Right, it doesn't say we have to add them, we just have to zone in the event.
But I think we should just make her aware
Okay.
of the fact that
MBTA zone.
we actually can't execute it.
Issue, water. Okay. Did you have one?
Well, I just want to clarify. So this is a meeting that we would have with Sally specifically, possibly Jerry, but not Bruce?
Not Bruce.
Just the reps. I would do just the reps first.
We are much more meaningful in terms of voters to Sally than we are to Jerry. Jerry's like, we're like a pinball.
I don't know, but I thought, I don't know why, you thought of
We could ask him.
meeting
okay,
with
what's-
Sally, but you were asking about Bruce
Also.
also. Personally, I thought maybe one at a time. I know that's a lot of meetings, but I feel as if we could get better communication with the reps if they were one-on-one. Whereas, we could talk to Sally and maybe she'd pick up some things. We talked to Jerry, maybe he'd pick up some things. And then if you wanted to do Bruce, but Bruce is just he's got such a larger district. I don't know how much specific he can give to us, but I
Well, we
don't
could
know.
ask him what he thinks about Sally signing this thing.
Yeah, I mean, some of the things that are overlapping, and if Sally's hitting a brick wall with the housing on
Yeah.
Cherry Street, maybe Bruce has a different avenue. I mean, I'm not sure how they all connect,
think
but,
I think you're right. We should
I mean, I
spend some
think
time
it
with
might not
Bruce.
hurt to ask if Bruce
Mhm.
can't, or, I mean, he
So-
was at
so would
the
you wanna do
Iron
it-
Rail event, and he
Yep.
was
He
very,
shows up everywhere.
he does.
He just appears, I know.
And he was saying, let me know what we can do, so.
So one meeting with our
I
representatives
think
and
it's better
senators?
separate.
You like it separate?
I do.
I like the separate thing too,
I
but
think we
Or
need to,
said differently, if I may,
if you may.
invite Jerry to sit with Sally
Okay,
and then have a separate meeting with Bruce.
with Bruce. Or do you want to do Bruce first, talk about water? And
Yeah,
then
that'd be
meet-
great.
I mean, it could be to get clarification
On
on
that-
this
on that
issue
thought.
that you brought up.
So
Yeah, I
what,
like that.
can we work on seeing if we can meet with Bruce first?
Yep.
And then we can bring the other issues also up to Sally.
We think like a Friday morning. Is that best for everybody?
Sure.
Something like this.
Unless you want to do another evening, but
Manchester's closed on,
yes, we are. Okay. So any other ideas that come up, I think we just shoot them off to Steve, because you know that you'll be driving or someone will bring something up, you'll go, that's a good thing to bring to attention of our reps. Beautiful. Good idea, Pete. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. I don't see,
actually, it's Eric.
it was Eric
Eric Mansfield's the one that found that.
to found that, no, but to talk to the rep, you brought that to my attention.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we can run to old business and see if Ben comes in, or do we want to have Gary's presentation first?
Does anyone know Ben's ETA?
Okay.
Why don't we go to H?
Well, you know what? Let's do consent agenda.
Yeah.
Let's do the
that.
consent agenda, and then we'll move up again. So we have a couple minutes to talk through September 5th and September 19th. So I think September 5th, we talked about last time, and we hadn't had a chance to look at them very well, or not everybody did. Is that the right meeting? Minutes? 19th, we looked at before.
And I submitted a bunch of edits,
You did.
yes.
So one thing I know for sure as far as September 19th was that the video went out, or there was a missing link, so that's why there were no, the reports and announcements weren't correct, right? The recording was delayed, so did we take minutes on that? We don't have our minutes ourselves, right?
I included some of the announcements.
You included some of the announcements, but, so in the event that this would happen again, we probably should have someone here just taking some handwritten notes so that we don't miss that stuff going further. So are we on 19?
Yeah, so we went through, I reviewed the actual video again, and I think what we have is, perhaps we're a little bit spoiled by Catherine Tinsley, having the understanding of all the nuances of our discussions and so forth. So I think that, there's typos that we got corrected. We inserted the announcements, went back and reviewed Martha Brennan's presentation, so we got that accurate. And I think it's just an expectation that, with a contractor doing the minutes, the clerk is going to have to kind of add in some of the nuances or background on some of the things, because, they are a good audience. They listen to the tape and write down what they see, but it may not be, exactly what was intended. Or
Okay.
So, Gary, for the September 19th, have you made all the changes?
yeah, so this copy you have in the packet. So that shows we got the business fair in there. There's the correction on that date on the appointment. Reviewed Martha Brennan, the day proclamation, and speaking about the changing of the state flag. There's so all the corrections that I received, we reviewed again and inserted, after having
Okay.
reviewed the tape.
So the only thing I still see is missing, and because I never shared my edits, I'm very sorry, is that A and B, I think, and I think it's a style point. It doesn't say we voted. It just says we appointed. I do think we want to say the select board voted to appoint, blah, blah,
Because
blah, voted
I think
to
we had
appoint.
given feedback, hadn't we, to, the contractor that we needed the standard, 500 or the 43,
Yep.
the votes logged in there. So that is still not come up.
That's not coming up, right. But so A and B, I think I would like to add the vote, that we voted those things in. The other changes that I see when I reviewed both, they're kind of stylistic type changes. Some were, Larch Row, I think it was spelled wrong, or they called it Larch Way. The minutes that most of the board, if you haven't been the clerk on the board, there were always little errors here and there. No one was ever perfect. So to compare draft minutes to what you're used to seeing as finalized minutes is also something we need to kind of think about. But, so that was September 19th. September 5th. I just had some questions. So I think I'll just go first. The executive session, I think we need to add that we voted unanimously to adjourn the open session and to recess to an executive session and return to open session. I think we voted to go to an executive session and return to an open session. It's a lot of words, but it doesn't say that we're going to return to open session on the executive's vote. I'm not sure if that's necessary.
But afterwards, it says the board reconvened the open session at 6:33 PM.
I know, but for some reason, I
But-
always feel like when we make the vote, we motion to enter executive session pursuant blah, 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 and reconvene in open session.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
So you
That's part
want,
of our motion.
and to reconvene, okay?
And then I just didn't understand this paragraph about the police secretary, but I was going to ask you, maybe I don't understand, where we talked about, on the third line, the consultant has advised that they are no longer have the staffing capacity to provide, who's the consultant?
Markham.
So the finance consultant.
Yep.
So, yeah. Can we put finance in there? That took me a little while to figure out. I just had other questions that have nothing to do with the minutes. Anybody else on September 5th? No?
nope.
How come some, like page 5 and 6 is like highlighted
Which one are you looking at?
on September 5th? The board reviewed the survey questions, presented the following suggestions. Who's ATN 1? Additional comments were made, blah, 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 but they couldn't hear it. Is that the minute writer?
That's the minute.
Minute writer?
Yep.
I think we could probably just take all that out. I mean, we don't need the specifics of what we talked, what the survey questions had to be, but your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's.
So the...
It's fine, just to take it
The
out.
3 dots there, right?
Yep.
Right.
Other than that, thoughts on these two sets or a motion?
Yeah, hang on a second.
Okay.
I move that we accept as amended the select board meetings for September 5th, 2023, and September 19th, 2023.
Second,
As amended.
as amended. Second.
Vote.
Gary, yes?
Deirdre, yes?
Diane, yes?
Peter, yes.
So that's a unanimous vote. Any other comments on the minutes taken? I know that you weren't pleased with the 19th,
The 19th.
yeah. But the 5th were,
Yeah, it's different people, so I think there's fluctuation in how it's getting done.
That's true.
But I thought the 5th was much better.
so, yeah, it's interesting, we should probably look at the name, but, so I think it's important that the clerk, whoever gets the minutes first, really, is gonna have to do a little bit more work than what we were used to
Yes.
doing. Yeah, okay. So let's go with that.
So
Although,
now
did we, sorry, on the minutes, did we ever advertise or ask anyone to be a personal minute taker?
No, we just went straight to this contractor.
And they're only doing our minutes? Select board minutes?
Yeah, and FinCom.
And FinCom minutes?
Haven't seen them yet.
Oh, you haven't seen them yet? That was gonna be my next question, how are they doing with the FinCom? Okay.
Hard to say.
So would it be beneficial to put it out there that we would be looking for a minute taker? At the same time, I mean, at present, we have Catherine still taking lots of minutes and lots of boards, right? Those boards are gonna need some assistance.
Any board.
At some point, they're gonna need some assistance.
Yeah. You know, I mean, my thought is, I'm not sure, you know, how much the work product will change. I guess it obviously depends on who you get, but if you're just getting somebody who has no experience, the potential of, you know, not understanding, you know, again, like with Catherine, you had someone who'd been around for 20 years and understood, you know, all the committees and who was on them and the names, and you know, without that, and you got just someone on the outside looking in, I feel like we're probably going to run into similar issues. And you know, my personal opinion is, you know, I agree the 19th, you know, part of it was we dropped the ball with the recording, and they did screw up in a number of things. But other than that, the other ones have been, you know, not bad in my opinion. But you know, obviously, if the board would like to pursue other,
Oh.
you know, other avenues,
I just didn't know, I'm just wondering, is it gonna be even feasible cost-wise to have them expand to the land use boards, for instance? I don't know.
Catherine eventually,
Yeah,
if
and when, or, you know, I mean, we need to have some sort of plan and to think about it, or to put it into the budget, I would imagine, at some point. Just something to think about.
I mean, I'd like to revisit it at some point in time, because I do think it's worthwhile to see if there is someone who would be interested. You know, and I think there are people looking for remote jobs, remote work. There might be people in town who are interested in doing this, that have a sense of Wenham and more familiar with the places and so forth. So I guess I wouldn't like to rule out the possibility of trying to recruit, because we didn't try. And I think it is more expensive to go with the company. I mean, there's more security in some sense, because you send it and you're gonna get them back, because that's the deal. But I'm not sure we need to decide tonight. but I
No,
would
so my
like
question is to think about it and think about when we would want to look around. I mean, it can't hurt to look around. I mean, you can have an ad out there and no one ever answer, but you
Right.
might have an ad out there and someone would be like, you know, that's exactly what I want to do.
Right,
So,
exactly.
let's keep it in mind.
Okay.
All right, I see we have a guest. Can I ask Select Board Member Ben Timon to say hello?
Hello. Thank
Hi.
you for letting me join this esteemed group. A little tardily and remotely, but hopefully the
Better late than
technology will
never.
hold up.
It's a pleasure to have you, and you're all dressed up.
Yeah, thank you. A little bit of multitasking tonight, so
That's-
far so good.
All right, so we did wait for you for 2 items, and one is the presentation by Gary Cheeseman to present on optimum committee structure and charge design. And the other one is on the formation of the Climate Action Committee. So, if you're good with that, Ben, we're gonna listen to Gary.
Yeah, and I appreciate you making those accommodations. Thank you.
Our pleasure. Gary, the floor is yours.
All right. Email copies here.
Thank you.
And then I sent you an email that has these 2 copies in here. The
Yes, I did get that. Thanks, Gary.
So kind of threefold here. I've been working on a large Excel spreadsheet with the history and trying to collect into one spot the origins of each committee, the original charging documents and the history, so forth, and to look at the membership, particular terms for membership, and what that's led to is, as we've seen in the last few years, we have great committee chairmen and committee members that do a lot of work, but there's been lapses over the past few years in certain areas, and I think we can attribute some of that to the inadequate written procedures for committees, and also charges that I know that pose a problem for the staff as well, that each committee seems to have a different format and style of committee charge, and I think that resulted just from the historical fact that as the committees were added over the years, that the select board at that time just drafted up what seemed to be appropriate for that particular committee. So the first page here, I submit a standardized committee charge. Committee charges, you can go on to the internet as always and find lots of examples and suggestions and so forth. But I think the main points are for us that the committee charge needs to define the purpose of the committee, how it's going to be structured, and what responsibilities. The advantage of having a detailed committee charge is it serves as a point of reference for the members on the committee, for the town staff and the citizenry at large. And from the select board point of view, I think the main point of the committee charge is to make sure that the efforts of each committee align with the overall direction that the select board is leading the town towards. And certainly, as we can see, some of the dates here, we certainly need to do some periodic reviews of already established documents. So a template I've gone through, I looked at other towns, what they have, and looked at, proposed charge styles online, and both corporate, nonprofit, and so forth. But what I see it basically gets down to is short paragraphs or statements, first on the purpose, second on the authority. Essentially for municipal work, the committee ought to understand under what authority, whether it's Mass General Law or Select Board direction or in a town meeting vote, what they're really operating under. And that paragraph would also designate whether it's an advisory committee or if the Select Board is delegating some degree of authority to take certain actions or decisions on their own behalf. Paragraph 3 would be the type and duration, whether this is going to be a permanent standing committee or a temporary committee with a fixed termination date. The fourth, in membership, this probably has the widest range. I'll show you the chart that each committee has, had anywhere ranging from 3 to 22 members, and the terms are different, and the sources have been different over the years. But I would say that, we can go with the terms that fix or fit that particular committee's charge, but certainly the charge document itself should lay out the number of members, the term of service, any specific qualifications that members need to have before being appointed, how and from where selected. We've done that in certain cases where we have specific other committees send members to the new committee. We always use a staggering of seats to start out with on permanent committees. Any term limits we want to put in, in the past, we've put attendance requirements on some of the committees to make sure people do participate, and need to define the role for ex officio or associate and alternate status members, such as we currently have on the ZBA. Underneath membership 2, officers, the second page we'll get to, but it will be a statement that the committee will elect new officers in accordance with the bylaws, and that we ought to set fixed times for that. Certainly for the elected committees, that should occur right after annual election day, and probably for appointed committees, that should be at the first meeting within so many days after the start of the fiscal year as we reorganize. One thing we really haven't addressed well in the past is resignation or removal, a statement of how a member may resign and what's necessary for that, and perhaps what terms, because we really, in the past, have not had a true method of addressing inactive members, those that do not participate for 6 or 8 months or whatever. And that would include a statement as to the appointing authority having the ability to remove a member. Then the real heart of the charge would be the responsibilities that would list the duties of the committee, detailed tasks to be accomplished, which would be the subsets, perhaps in priority order of what the select board or what we want that committee to do. If it's appropriate, we would identify the funding source. And in the past, different committees, we've established minimum meeting frequency to make sure the committee stays on track, reporting requirements, deadlines, and to define what interactions we expect that committee to have with other bodies in town. And finally, last paragraph would be a closure. It would establish in written procedure the fact that a committee has certain actions to complete before their term of service runs out. That would be inclusion of a final report to the town records, transfer of documents and records, which has been a sore point in the past, notification to the town clerk so that the town clerk can give credit for dates of service for the different members, and a closeout and transfer of financial accounts. So that's a proposal to arrive at a standardized committee charge. And the second page speaks to certainly a select board policy, but probably also extend it to a town bylaw to define the roles of officers within the committees. My experience has been that currently we expect everything of the chairman, and on most committees, the other members contribute but don't assist with the workload of administration. So recommend that a bylaw would establish the fact that the committees would reorganize after the town election for elected ones or after the start of the fiscal year for appointed ones, that the incumbent chair or the senior remaining member in case of elections would be responsible for calling the organization meeting within 30 days so we get off to a good start. Each committee will elect a chairman, vice chairman, and clerk, and if the body is responsible for any town budget line, appropriation, trust fund, revolving fund, grant, or any other financial instrument, a treasurer shall be elected. And I think we've seen in the last couple of years instances where the lack of having treasurers on committees that coordinate with the finance director has been the issue. So I've looked at all different towns and looked at how we practiced in the past and come up with a list of, it looks long, but I think the chairs of our Wenham boards, commission, and committees actually do all this work, currently, or some points should be, but there's 1 through 23 of items that I think we would task the chair of a particular board, commission, or committee to attend to. That's followed by the duties of the vice chair, which is essentially the be ready to take over on the items 123 for the chair. And flip to the back, the duties of the clerk. We just got finished talking about minutes, but I think certainly the number of committees that have come to rely on contracted or staff minutes has expanded, and I, for one, would think that, both cost-wise and participation-wise, that for those committees that do not have certain legal requirements, such as planning or ZBA or the select board, that most of the other committees should have the primary task to complete minutes, or at least complete the drafts that perhaps another party could review. That the committees should maintain their documents, and I'll just relate to the fact of my spreadsheet of the inability to find documents from the past history is quite clear on certain committees. Clerk would also be responsible for keeping a record of committee correspondence and assist the chair with their response to public records requests that we know has certain strict deadlines to meet. And help for Michelle here is I think each of the committees really need to step up and pay more attention to their preparation of the individual committee's report for inclusion in the annual town report. Duties of the treasurer would be oversight of the financial accounts that the body is responsible for, coordinating with the town finance director, reporting financial account status to the chair and the committee, and assist the chair with the compliance on the local laws and regulations on financial matters. So in the past, we know that the town has had a very simplified budget or accounting system that was basically expenses and salaries that at times, unless a committee had specific project in mind, that they did not participate very well in the budget process, nor did they carry forward the actions of a project once been voted by the committee, that the finance workload essentially fell entirely into the finance director's office. Whereas I think that, especially as we see the Open Space and Rec is doing a great job on the West Wenham Park, but, as things become more complicated, the workload has to be spread out a little bit, and we need people to, one, back up the finance director on individual projects, and also be able to report back to their own committee as to what the status of trust funds and so forth are, and also as to where the project monies are completed or not. And I know that one of Jamie's projects that she had here was, we probably still need to look at is, old projects that have been long completed, but the budget lines have not been zeroed out. So there may be some activities there. So I would think the next points here is to decide as a select board whether we want to go with some sort of standardized charter to send out the proposed drafts to the individual committees for feedback, and then have hopefully Steve work up a formal bylaw if we want to include this at the next town meeting.
So I just want to, you mean to send the, a specific charge?
Yeah, so,
Not a
yeah,
charter,
so,
okay, you said charter, so I.
yes, not sure. So it should be the charge format to the committees.
And see if they can fill it out.
Yeah, and to see if they can fill it out, and see what feedback we get from the roles and responsibilities of the officers too. Because I know that certainly will vary by committee, that I think there is the concern that it may put too much workload on particular chairs, but I think if they look down through the list of 23, all these are items that really need to be completed, and I think for the large committees, they already are doing the work.
I would agree. I do have to quickly say that number 9 is a repeat, so I think it's only 22. You said confirm all members have completed required state and local training, which
Right.
is the same as 3 and 4, so it's really only 22, so much easier.
Right.
What, tons of work, Gary. Thank you for starting this. This is awesome. Does anyone have any questions?
No, but I like the path. This is great. And then let's see what the committees think.
I think this is good. So for first point of clarification, so the second page where you have the organization of town boards and committees plus all the duties, is you envision all of that going into a possible bylaw?
Yeah, well, if you look at the bylaw now, we have certain items in there about the requirements for being a resident citizen and so forth. So I think there's that section ought to be rewritten to include all the specific requirements that apply across all committees into one paragraph or one section. So yes, I would put in there the, the requirement to reorganize, the requirement to, use majority voting of the full membership number, the requirement to have the officers, and to, continue on the current items such as the residency requirement.
Okay, so this isn't specifically text for a bylaw change. This is,
No, these are, not the text. This is items that we should
Ideas.
include in a rewrite.
that's helpful.
So there's two pieces to the next step in your mind, and one is to get this into a template and send it to our committees and see if they can fill it out and see what kind of feedback they give on us. The second piece to that, so we can talk about each one separately, is to discuss changing the bylaws,
Yes.
the bylaw.
Yeah.
Okay. So as far as the template going out to the committees, you like that idea? You said that you like that. Is that, you think that's a workable thing? The committees can do that?
So they do have existing charges, right?
Yes, there are charges, though I can show you the spreadsheet. I've not found them all. And, some, we've revised over the last 2 or 3 years. Obviously, some, such as those that are directed by Mass General Law, you have a very short membership and powers and duties in the bylaw, just, 2 or 3 sentences. Some, like the Housing Authority or Concom have much more expanded ones
Right.
later on in their own sections. But certainly not having looked at our bylaws or committee set up for a long, long time, that perhaps we should, ask the committees to review their current charges, see if they can
into
put them
this template.
into this template, and bring back with any changes they see as necessary as well.
Okay, so that's what I was asking, is that they should look at what exists,
Right.
not ask them
Yeah.
to start from scratch.
Right.
I mean, I'd like a little time to look at to think this through a bit before we just send it out, since we just got it, 5 minutes ago. So I'd just like to think
Yeah.
about it a
Okay.
bit, and the formatting and so forth, before we start sending it around. And then I think absolutely it should go to the boards and committees, and input from our chairs, 2 of whom are here tonight. Do we want to talk about the next part?
Okay,
or-
not yet. So,
Sorry, go ahead.
taking this, like the second half of this first page, and kind of formatting it, making it more like a worksheet or a
Right.
questionnaire.
Can do?
Can we bring that back next meeting
Yes.
to look at?
All right.
Can you work on that? And we can,
But can we, well,
what?
can we send comments to Gary, or no?
We can send comments to Steve, right?
Why don't you just send comments to me?
Okay.
Or so maybe, can you send this as a Word doc to Steve? Steve, can you send it out to us, and then you have something to respond to?
Right.
And we can go back. And hopefully we can, if we can't get it done by next meeting, then we put it off a meeting, but I think it's, because it's not timely by any means, right? So, but I think it would be a good exercise also. I think a lot of people that are on boards now, either sometimes the charges get lost, or they never knew them, they just jumped in and, appoint me, that sounds great, So it's a good exercise to bring everyone back to that piece, yes.
So for example, like on resignation and removal, I mean, are we asking each committee to decide?
Well,
It seems like
so
something would be-
let me draft up a message to each committee and ask them to fill in these paragraphs as they would see it within their committee. So certainly resignation removal, that is going to be a standard one across all the committees.
Yeah, that should probably go
You
in
know,
organization.
The officers we're talking is going to be standard across all the committees. But the question of, the duties of their particular committee, the detailed task, do they have enough guidance? Do they understand what their funding sources are? And do they want to include in their committee, the meeting frequency, and do they know about process of reporting for the annual town report, which I think Michelle will vouch, that was pulling the teeth to get some of those reports in.
So it looks like a six paragraphs: purpose, authority, type, duration, membership, responsibilities, closure.
Yes.
That seems like every committee and board should have a general idea of that.
All right.
Right, and not the officers, and
Right.
not the resignation and removal,
Right.
because that's
It will become standard.
standard.
Okay, so that's a good action
All right.
plan.
Got it?
So then going towards the idea of a bylaw,
And
that's been brought up a few times. Oh, you have
Sorry,
something else
one
before we
last
get there?
yeah, the closure, so I mean, that, I think clarifying that's applicable to some committees, but not others, right?
Yeah, certainly, there's permanent committees like planning board or whatever,
There's
but
no-
others, it should,
not.
all the ad hoc committees,
West Wenham.
West Wenham or, the
Rail.
playground, the town building committee should have a formal set that makes sure that we get the documents back. And certainly in the police and the town hall renovation, we do have all the blueprints and all that stuff established. But in other cases, it's very hard to find, what happened to the Pingree Park Playground Committee. So,
Are you sharing the spreadsheet, or is that just what you're using for now?
so the spreadsheet, I can share that, but a work in progress, and this is involved, you know, first going through town reports, seeing when the committee was established, going to the select board minutes to see when the select board established that committee, and then searching files to see if the original charge documents exist anymore. And of course, the charge documents often being a document outside of the regular minutes, unless they're put in there as an attachment, that they haven't been found in some cases yet.
It's a big project. It's pretty exciting. Okay, so talking about a bylaw, because I guess now would be the time to start talking if we want to bring something to town meeting. So I think best course of action, my first instinct, is to pull that section of the bylaw out, have everyone read it, see what we feel needs to be added, and then work with proper lingo to put it in there.
All right.
So, I don't know exactly where it is in the code exactly, but we can all find it on the E-code and pull it out and maybe,
Yeah, section, bylaw, section 5, I'm not sure which exact paragraph it is, but.
it's section 5?
Yeah, it just short talks about residency. So
Residency.
there's not much general guidance in there. It's just short blurbs on each of the individual committees.
One thing we want to remember is not to make the bylaw extremely specific
Right.
or
Right.
to right now, but these don't actually seem like that. These seem like actual standardized things that might work well in a bylaw. Okay, so we have another action plan. The next meeting? Could I put everything on the next meeting? Maybe not.
I'm busy next meeting.
Yeah,
All right.
let's put that one in December.
Right.
But we do need to work on that one. That is actually a little bit time consuming.
We can do the Maple Woods update, not next meeting. We can do that later.
Yeah, we can, I mean,
It won't take long. Yeah, no, I don't think it will. Nothing is going to take very long, I think.
I mean, we got a lot going on. We'll be going over the budget, and there'll be time for other things. It's not the only thing we can do. However, the first meeting in December, likely as it stands now, at least the way I'm envisioning it, is probably going to already be a multi-hour
Budget,
meeting. Just
Budget.
budget overview.
Budget heavy.
Yeah. So
Right.
if there's a meeting you want to keep light, that would be it.
okay. So we'll try for next meeting. If it doesn't make it, then
Yeah,
we'll
let's
push
see.
it
I
off
mean,
till
if
the
we
middle
can
of
get-
December.
Doesn't sound undoable.
Right.
I mean, really, the feedback from the committees with actually filling it out is where the time is. It's just getting it out and then
Getting it
pasting
out,
to get it
right.
back.
And then waiting for it to come back. Okay.
Are we talking about the responsibilities or no?
We didn't. Sorry. Because that would not be in the bylaw, right? Or is that part of the bylaw?
Well, I think that gets into pretty much detail, but I think perhaps the difficult, where do you put that? Because you can put it in a training manual
That's where I think it should be.
for those items, and certainly the bylaw would only need to state that the chair has certain responsibilities that are detailed under select board policy 62 or whatever,
Any comments on the responsibilities and duties of those
Yeah, certainly.
officers?
I do think this is detailed for a bylaw. I do think this would be better placed in a manual. So there is a board and committee manual that we
Handbook,
have.
yep.
I think it's worth us taking a look at that again, but that seems to me to be the logical place where this might live, so that it's
I would agree
one-
with that. I also think it's a little bit out of our purview on telling the chairs what their responsibilities are. I think I do think that's a town clerk responsibility. So it would
This,
be,
the
Well-
list of responsibilities, is this, okay, so I guess I'm not clear.
Well, I think, that's
Thought
the
Gary's
debatable
trying-
point. I think, the structure of town government, and how committees act in general is an executive function, and certainly the town clerk has a major role in the making sure the training is complete, oath of office and so far. But, I see the executive town administrator laying out, how the officers should go about doing their duties and what they actually are.
So the committee handbook that's on the website usually comes out of the town clerk's office, though. It's always,
It just
So
seems a
that's-
logical place for this to reside.
exactly, so that's where I
there's-
got confused, like, so,
Not that it's the.
I don't want us getting into, someone else's work, per se, so that's, but I do see both sides now, so I'm kind of confused on where it
But
goes.
it's just that there's a logic to have one
Yeah, one
repository
point, yeah.
that gets handed to people who get appointed, so you have one
Or
place to
elected.
go or elected,
Yep,
to understand all of, everything
Mm-hmm.
about being on a board or committee, right? Rather than trying to figure out this is there and this is there and so forth.
right.
I mean, I thought what Gary was trying to do is try to create some standardization. To the and the committees are different, so I think it does vary. I would say the list of duties for chair is a little bit daunting, and I realize that a lot of this just gets done. I've been on multiple boards and committees now, but this is an opportunity to sort of think it through a bit, and to me, one thing that jumps out is that some of these things could potentially be shifted to the vice chair specifically, so in order to lighten the load a bit from the chairs.
Such
'cause
as,
It's a lot. Well, one thing that jumped out is number 18, recruit citizens. Recruitment is a whole thing. I don't think that's a current expectation, and I think that would be great, but that's, significant, I think, to expect the boards and committees to do that, but maybe that's something that could be shifted to a vice chair. And I think there are some things that maybe are expectations and some that might be we encourage, because it is a lot. Things like minutes we have to do somehow. Things like recruitment, that could be argued where that should live. But I think that's where the feedback from the chairs is going to be important as well. As to sort of where's the reasonable calibration.
So the way I think about that number 18 is that it's like the whole committee should be recruiting. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, I know Deirdre, she'd be really good on such and such, on our committee.
so I see it like that as well. And so maybe that's more of a standardization, so a majority vote of full membership is required, so the chair, everybody, these officers have their set responsibilities, but the whole committee in itself does their charge, but part of that charge is to keep people engaged, find your successor, keep it, maybe that goes up to that organization piece where every member of every board has the same voice, right? There's not, even the chair has more official duties, but doesn't have more power or authority in a vote.
I like that, Di.
Thanks, Pete. So why don't we look through this and kind of play with it too?
Yep.
I mean, I know it is daunting, and I know, and people say it all the time, like, how do you want me to volunteer when you're asking me to do all these things? I don't have time
Right.
for this. I mean, there's 22, we took out one, so 21, but they're not, I don't know. It looks daunting. It looks daunting.
And some of it, and I might suggest, and I'll
Merging
send this
some?
as comments, well, like creating categories, just so it's a little bit clearer. Like some of it is just strictly meeting organization. There's different subsets of tasks here.
So it would look
And
like
that
less
would-
too.
Yeah, and some of it, conduct reorganization voting, that's once a year. So that doesn't have the same task weight as some of the other things do.
Yeah, like 2, 3, 4, that's once a year.
Right.
So annual things.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I think this is great. I just think let's tinker with it a bit and
Tinker.
think it through
Okay.
a bit. Look at the formatting before we then ask everyone to comment on it.
Okay. Which is separate than sending out the charge.
Yeah, but we need to tinker with that too.
We need to tinker with that too, but they're kind of two separate.
But
We
they
don't want
are,
to put it all out at once. We're gonna, because committees, they all have their work to do as well, so we
Yes.
can't send them everything all at once, so. I think the charge is more important,
I agree.
and then the duties after that, but the bylaw has to come in between, or the concept of a bylaw. Is that a good timing? And I didn't say next meeting, just generally. Awesome. Gary, you get a standing O. Standing O. Very nice.
Thanks, Gary.
All right,
Good discussion, too.
let's go to our old business. Finish up the day with the Climate Action Committee, which we've shortened the name, Climate Action and Sustainability Committee. And Steve, can you help us start this?
Yeah, sure. So,
Thank you.
I mean, so the way we left it off last week was we're going to start the discussion of drafting a charge for a climate action committee. In the packet, you have two examples of two example charges in to use as discussion points, and one is, more advisory in role and more specific in its charge, and the other is broader and can serve as discussion pieces as you guys draft the charge for the climate action committee.
Okay, so I know that one charge is the one that I drafted and presented in September, but I don't know where the other one came from or what the rationale was behind it.
So the
So can
first one
someone
is what you
present it?
presented.
First one's what I
The
presented.
draft for comment.
Right.
Yeah.
So what is the second one?
That was, Diane drafted that, and it's a it's a,
Mix.
conglomerate of a number of community charges, climate action charges.
Trying to be more limited in tasks, more task-oriented through the first year was the goal. But now I'm trying to merge it into the new template.
So they're actually quite different, so I don't know if you want to speak to
Yep.
the rationale of what you did, but it's significantly different than
And what do
I
you see as
proposed.
different?
So what I'm proposing is a sustainability, climate action sustainability committee that is broad-based, that it allows the committee to form and start to look at where we might basically start taking action on climate issues. This is more the creation of a report writing charter committee with a specific one single output. So the committee in the second version would be basically tasked just to do research and write a report and not actually try to do public education and
Right.
suggest programs and so forth. And I think what I'm having a problem with is the scale of these tasks, which I'm not sure if everyone appreciates, but I can speak more to that.
So I did see sort of a more structured report to figure out where we are. We know where we need to be, so find out where we are, and then how are we gonna get here? What processes can we use? What programs can we do? How much is this gonna cost, and what are we gonna gain, or that's gonna cost? And then, if it came to the select board around this time, in my mind, I'm thinking around this time, then we could throw it into a budget, and we could then continue with a plan, and then the committee could go on with their plan, with the plan that they present.
Right, and not that a plan is a bad idea. I mean, it would be great to have this, don't get me wrong, and I hope that we will get here eventually. But this scope, as it's drafted, is a monumental effort, and that's, I think, the most important point I need to get across. This is enormous. This, to me, is written more like a consulting firm scope of work that you would actually pay a significant amount of money for experts to come in and to actually do all of these things. And as a comparison, you know, a lot of the language in this was taken from, as far as I can tell, the town of Needham. I mean, a lot of these are word for word from Needham.
I took a bunch, and Steve helped me merge. Yep.
But at least, so at least 5 of these points come from Needham. And just as a comparison, and then there are other things added in here. So the Needham committee was set up exactly that. It's a charter committee to write the climate action report for the town of Needham. It is a 9-member committee. They've established 6 working groups, comprised, some of them of up to 11 people. So there's a total of 58 people working on just 5 of these tasks. So plus a consultant that is hired to pull the report together in the end. So the feasibility of a 5-person volunteer board in a small town, Needham also is a 31,000 population. There's just no way that 5 individuals in Wenham could, in their spare time, do this effort. It's just not feasible.
And I thought it was more.
I mean, it is more specific, but
it's more.
it's
so
a monumental amount of
Okay.
research and writing and
Okay.
analyzing, and with a very high level of technical expertise.
So how can we merge? And what my concern is with the first one is there's a lot of recommendations, there's a lot of seeking grants, there's a lot of development and education, and how is that gonna happen, and who's gonna end up doing that, and where is that gonna get us, when I really want, personally, I would like someone to say, again, this is where we are, we've committed to get here by, I don't know if it's 2040 or 2050, I'm confused now, but there's electrification,
Electrification.
thank you, solar, probably a million other ways to get to this goal, or even towards the goal. And I feel like the original one is great, but I feel like there's gonna need to be a lot of collaboration, a lot of, I don't, what's gonna come out of it, where we're gonna get the money for it. I just would rather like to see a plan come out of it, so then we know where we're going and where the money's gonna come from.
Right, but
So-
we're actually submitting grants to actually try to get
Who is?
money. Well, Vicki Masson has submitted, for example, I
Right.
believe, the Municipal Vulnerability Program
Right,
grant.
but that's separate from this.
Well, you
She's
have
doing it.
elements of that in the scope.
Mhm.
Okay,
So-
so that's a whole thing unto itself, the MVP, Municipal Vulnerability.
So the one thing that I really like about the second one is 2C,
2C.
comprehensive implementation schedule that aligns with budget and town meeting cycle. So it's like, this is what we're gonna do, and make sure that we can afford it, and the town meeting, that the town agrees.
But I think you need A, B, and C before you get there.
No,
Or
I
A,
agree. I agree, but
but you like that.
I just like C, as, so something's actually gonna get done.
Right. Right.
But to get to C, you still, there's a lot of things that have to happen to get to that. And from my research, which I looked at probably 10 or 15 towns, the charge that I put forward is consistent with what most particularly small towns are doing. I didn't look at cities. I looked at, except for Salem Beverly, because they have a great website and a great collaboration, and that's what I think we could aspire to. But this is where the committees start. The idea is that the committee would be a hub that would be able to reach out to other boards and committees, and to also to the relevant staff in the town hall, to try to identify where we can make progress. And that may be with electrification, that may be with some of the bioretention ideas that Kate Mallory has, that may be helping Vicki Masson with municipal vulnerability grants. It may be identifying opportunities where we can get some sort of ground floor initiatives going. It may be suggesting some public education, but I think you have to also allow the committee some space to figure out where to start and not be so prescriptive that it's not attainable. And I think the second one is not attainable. It's going to put anyone who volunteers in a very difficult position to try to pull that off.
Any comments?
I agree with Deirdre on this. I think that I think we need to get this committee formed, and I'd hate to sort of have paralysis by analysis, with this committee. I think that, Diane, a lot of the things you put in, I agree are good ideas, but I do worry that they might put a little bit of a straitjacket on this new committee, or create expectations that aren't really achievable, as opposed to just trying to have a framework where this committee can get going on, a prioritized list of the most achievable things, including some of the benchmarks that I think it was the 2022 Select Board voted, how we're going to be able to achieve some of those benchmarks, even within the next few years. So I prefer the framework that Deirdre has put together, because I just think it will allow us to get started and to start making some progress on some of these things. And I also just think we need to act on this and get the committee created. And I know Deirdre, amongst all five of us, I think has put certainly the most amount of time and research into this, and so I support her proposal.
Thanks, Ben. Gary?
I think that perhaps we're overestimating our capabilities in this area, that certainly I would see that we need to focus on, one, establishing a climate action plan, which does not need to be a book, but addresses the immediate aspects of what are we going to do with our building facilities, what are we going to do with our vehicle fleet, and then move on to, what green infrastructure we're going to need to address these. Because, yes, educate and raise awareness, develop programs, seek grants. So, yes, certainly those are going to be done, but I don't think there's going to be the time or the capacity on the committee to do all of these things on the list. That I think that we need to be more specific on the priorities that we know that the state are going to mandate to us. So yes, it'd be nice to develop programs to meet sustainability goals, but in actual fact, what the state is already telling us is that, one, you got to get the vehicle fleet changed, and two, that we're going to need to, and we know already from our HVAC and so forth, that there are more practical aspects that we need the committee to focus on, non-big general ideas, but on 1, 2, 3 as to what programs are really hitting us in the face right now, and that is, how do we make the buildings greener? How do we make the vehicle fleet greener? And then what other infrastructure points that we need to make? Because, the budget is not going to be here to cover all these things, that the climate action, most of the activity and information, we're going to have to rely on a state or federal level to give us that information. So I see the advisory committee as being more of a research as to find the grants, find the information, and then propose specific paths to specific projects that are going to be mandated to the town from a state and federal level. So I appreciate Deirdre's wide scope here, but I don't think whether you look at one or two and how many committees or subcommittees you have, the fact is that Wenham is not going to have the capacity to do everything in all the climate action areas, and that I think we're going to be challenged by just the state mandated areas, and that's where we need to start off with.
So I don't think there's any reason why we couldn't have a suggested list of places to start, but as far as codifying it in the charge, that's what I'm reluctant to do, because I think we need to allow some space for the committee to look at the potential list of items and suggest some prioritization. The point is not for us to tell them everything that they should do, but is to actually ask people to volunteer with some level of interest and expertise and tell us where to start. So if we're telling them, that kind of defeats the purpose of them advising us, in my opinion. It's also not completely without guideposts, because there is an entire core goal in the master plan that's about sustainability, and there's a lot of things woven into the master plan that will already present some immediate guideposts for the committee to start thinking about. So it's not that it's completely nothing. That's certainly a place to start. Sorry, yeah, I'll stop there for the moment.
So, for a moment. I think it's such a huge topic,
It is.
and we're kind of starting behind the 8 ball with a huge place to get to. So I think in my head, and when Steve and I were talking, we thought this would be kind of like the government study, where we could get some dedicated people to do some research, pull all this stuff together, and then come out with a plan that we could move forward. That's what I was actually thinking. And when I read all the different, the wills, the 1 to 8, they're all so big, and I thought this was more than this. Although now, when I look at it, there's a lot here too. Do you know what I mean? Because they're all different types of things, whereas in this one, it was just like, find out what we have, where we're gonna go, what we can do, and then we can really start to do that, and then keep adding all these other arms up. That's how I was thinking of it.
And it is structured like the Government Study Committee. That was clear immediately. The issue, and it's not that it's a bad charge, it's just that we don't have the capacity to do that. We're not there. We're just not there yet.
I thought that would be a starting point, and this is larger.
Okay, so
See,
I was
I'm
on the
going
Government
backwards.
Study
Yep.
Committee.
Mhm.
And it was a lot of work, and not to belittle it, not to say all we did, but relative to this proposed scope, what we did was create a survey for the public, interview some people. It was a lot of work, but it is nowhere near what is proposed here. I do have a master's degree in environmental science, I'm gonna put that out there, so I do have some understanding of what it would take to do even one of the things on that list. It is significant, and it is way beyond the sort of level of effort.
Even just saying where we are.
Yes.
Where we want to go, and, different roads on how to get there.
But that's
That's
not what
more
this
than
says.
this?
This is very in-depth. They have 58 people dedicated to this effort in Needham. Just 5 of those.
But if I may,
Yeah.
I think, you're looking at 58 over here too, On number 1, I don't see how any 5 people are going to be able to handle energy conservation, renewable energy, solid waste, green building, water policy, public health and safety, natural resources. And that's why I'm saying that we need to scope this down to a level where Wenham can handle it. And I think, you need a basic climate action basis, and then recognize that, we have in place, we're not going to reinvent the world or solve the whole climate action thing, but water policy, we have a water commission that will take that. Board of Health already works public health and safety. Concom does natural resources, and then solid waste is going to be it's more of a contractual thing as to what's out there. So I'm looking at again, that the Climate Action Committee is going to focus on energy conservation or electrification and infrastructure, which gets back to buildings, vehicles, and anything we want to add as far as, the green infrastructure at Bucher or whatever. Because I don't think budget-wise or time-wise that we're going to get able to get much beyond that, so that to come up with plans for all these very large-scale areas that we're not going to get there, that we ought to look at specific projects and have the committee look at the project, see how we can accomplish that bit, and then move forward item by item.
So the idea is not for the committee to tackle all of that, because that would be impossible, right? The idea is for the committee to be a hub and to be advisory, so that when these issues come up in the various boards, committees, departments, there is a place to go to say, hey, Steve says, I'm talking to Casella about waste management. Do you guys have any suggestions, other schemes, things, so forth and so on? Or could you do some research and look at it? I shared this with Ernest. He did not seem to have any concerns. I've shared this with Phil Colarusso and Concom. They seem to be supportive. Phil was very supportive, and I believe he wrote to everyone also. It's not to infringe on anyone's territory. It's to create a hub that has linkages to boards and committees. It's a place for people to go to say, hey, what do you think? Could you help us with this? And to make suggestions, so that maybe they go to Concom and say, I think we need a septic program to protect the environment, because this is best practice now.
I still see that as the second piece, because I still think we need a plan on how to go forward. And then that advisory, that group of people that can meet on, whatever topic someone throws at them. I love that, the ones you just threw out, then that's the advisory part to the town, not just advisory to the select board. But we do need, what are we going to do to get to where we have to go?
Yes, and
That's-
I do
that's
think
where I-
that will be front and center. Electrification, municipal aggregation, those will be certainly top topics. I have no doubt.
So I think we're stuck.
Let me just say, this is going to be repetitive, but
Here, Ben.
the way that number one in Deirdre's proposal is described, I mean, to me, that it fits with what Deirdre just explained as the vision here, which is, a list of examples of the kinds of topics that may either be identified as a priority and as an achievable project by the Climate Action Committee, or as that sort of hub and facilitating advisory board where, we need to integrate sustainability analysis into, pretty much all of the board's decision making, right? Many boards' decision making processes, and so that's what seems to me to be the vision of this committee, is to be there as a resource, and to add its expertise as issues arise. And we can't predict exactly what issues are going to arise, but the way I read number one on this list of 8 is pretty much just as Deirdre has described it, as a facilitating board and an advisory board. So I don't think that's biting off too more than we can chew. I think that it fits with what we need to do, which is to get this committee up and running and, call it low-hanging fruit, call it, the most achievable objectives they can tackle right away. But there's definitely work that they can be helping with right now.
So can you summarize what you just said again? Like clearly, what are you stating?
Just go with the first one.
Are you directing that to me, Diane?
Yes, I was directing that to you, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm
No, it's
looking right
okay.
at you, but
Sorry.
you can't see me.
The Zoom's, I wasn't there. No, I think that like I said before, I feel like the framework that's laid out in the 2-page document is consistent with at least my understanding of what we wanted to pursue here, which is to get a committee going that can begin advising and assisting and facilitating on these matters and prioritizing. And energy conservation probably would be right near the top of the list. So I like the way that this one's written myself.
Yeah, I'm sort of in the 80-20 rule.
I know you like the 80-20. Draft for comment. I just have concerns that it's not going to be as helpful to the town as I would like. I think it's not going to give us an actual plan of what to do. I do like number 1.
Yeah.
I think then it just keeps going and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and I just don't understand how it's all going to go if we don't have a plan on where to go.
I mean, you can take some of it out, I guess. But
I mean, or just, right, like, number 1 is recommend establish a climate action plan and goals. That's basically all I thought I was saying in the other one, like the first one. Number 1 on yours. And I don't think the other things are not important. I don't, because they are, but I just want to want to see the steps.
I mean, I think we need these people who are hopefully, knock on wood somewhere, that are hopefully going to volunteer to help us shape this. I mean, that's part of it, right?
Shape the plan.
To shape the plan, to shape the way forward for this committee, and
Okay.
to think about what can be done. I just think being too prescriptive is limiting, and let's get some people, hopefully with some expertise, that are willing to step up. I mean, even that, we have to wait and
Expertise
see.
or interest. I think
Both
high interest is
expertise
great.
and interest.
So I
yeah.
think then both options here are essentially talking about a climate action plan is the first step. Whether, one says recommend and establish climate action and sustainability goals, well, that's your climate action plan. And then 2, either side, number 2 is develop the programs in support of the climate action plan, which is essentially, number 2 on the other side. So, climate action plan 1, develop programs 2, and number 3 is get the money through grants. And 4, I would put is, provide expert advisory to the select board or other committees. But,
Yeah,
All right.
that's number 6.
I
because, and I would,
it sounds like a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of stuff, not a lot of direction. But I sense from Deirdre, the goal would be to get people that have some expertise and can put direction in there. Again, we don't have any money right now towards this, and so I was hoping that, by next year, if we had a plan, and then we could put money with it, and then we could budget better for the following year. That's how I was seeing it.
Have you met Bob Knowles?
Yes.
He's going to drive this.
Okay.
And hopefully Bob will, that's my hope. But he's been working on these issues, and he is a person who would have some clear suggestions as to where to go and how to start this, but, to do something this significant is not fair to put on 5 volunteers.
well, I think perhaps your definition of the climate action plan is the entire,
Bigger than I could even imagine. I think.
bigger than you can imagine.
That's what's
Whereas-
here in the second charge.
But it's also on 1, too, so
That's a
I don't see, let's put these together, recommend and establish a climate action and goals, and a climate action plan, let's put that together as, develop a climate action plan and let the committee decide what the scale of that is. Because certainly, we're not in Needham or a Boston, we're not gonna have, 100 people doing 1,000 different projects. What we need is something that is scaled to Wenham. So step one is a climate action plan, which for Wenham may be just 2 or 3 pages of, what we can do.
Yes.
The second step is to define what we can do, turning them into actual projects and getting the
Analysis.
cost analysis as to, how do we do the vehicles, how do we do the buildings, how do we do open space? And then 3, that the committee needs to be our conduit to go out and find the grants. And then 4 is, on future items that come up, be a source of technical information, as you say. So I think that these 2 can be merged into one document that basically gives the committee 4 initial tasks. 1, climate action plan, what's reasonable for Wenham. 2, what specific programs is the state mandating and how are we going to do it. 3, help us go out and find money. And 4, for all the other committees and select board and so forth, be the center of expertise on the wide-ranging issues that may come up here.
Right, so those are all there, plus report progress to the select board. And the only one that you didn't mention that's in the version I prepared is collaborate with Hamilton, the regional school district, and the climate action team. That's the only one you didn't mention.
Yeah, so, we always coordinate with Hamilton and with the schools, but, although they have expertise out there, I don't like to call out, specific non-government organizations outside or particular bodies or people, because you always get into the why them and not us, being selected. So I think, given the collaboration with the Hamilton and the school district, because obviously the schools,
Don't you think Bob's going to be on this committee?
I certainly hope so.
So then you don't need to coordinate with the
Right.
Hamilton Wenham action team.
No,
Right, so we
I
can
speak
take
to
that
that
up.
more as a, procedural thing, not the position, not the individual.
Yep, point taken. So we can take that out, and I think if we put in, number 1, recommend and establish a climate action plan and sustainability goals, and that's the plan that you're looking for.
Yep.
And they can decide,
And just
Scale and
cut off
scope.
number 1 right there.
yeah, and the topics are suggested topics.
Yeah.
It's not mandated. And we can say suggest programs in number 2. And that lightens a little bit. Seek and obtain may be a lot to ask, but maybe identify grants and funding.
Yep.
Yeah, and we should put, cost as well in there.
Identify
If I-
costs. Yeah, well, that's part of the
Yeah.
action plan, I would imagine, right?
And there's also, the climate action resolution that you all signed a year or so ago. I mean, that has some direction in it also. So between that and the master plan, there are starting points. All right, so number 1, edit to include plan. And you prefer that we take out the suggested topics and leave it open
I would.
or unspecified?
I would. Makes it easier to read, I think.
Sorry,
Also.
yes, you would.
Yes, I would, yeah.
Number 2 becomes suggest programs designed to meet the town's sustainability goals. Number 3 becomes identify grants and funding, including through, I think that's okay. Educate and raise awareness. 5, we take out, let's collaborate with Hamilton Environmental Impact Committee and the Regional School District. We remove the Climate Action Team. And then 6 is coordinate with select board, town departments, committees, and boards. Number 7 is stay informed.
Well, 6, just a comment, if it's an advisory committee, I think in the first place for all this information to flow is back to the select board, because any committee should not be tasking or putting workload on other committees or boards, so that, I would scratch 6 and, substitute in there number 8, that basically report the progress back to the select board. Because the select board ultimately is going to have to make the hard choices as to what goes into the budget and what's doable.
So the idea is not that they're tasking anyone, but is that they're a hub and a resource for everyone. So we could reword that to say, serve as a resource. They are advisory to the select board, so that's a given. That's sort of the purpose of the committee. We could say instead, serve as a resource for town departments, committees, and boards. So we want anyone to be able to reach out to
Right.
them to say, we have this idea, or what do you think, or what are you guys doing? And the idea was to have, we'll get to the membership,
Right,
but
so
that's part of.
serve as a resource to everyone else, all right?
Yes.
Scratch the strive to enhance.
Okay, fine. Stay informed of state programs and goals that will align and enhance Wenham's ability to achieve its sustainability goals. So that's basically just keeping your ear to the ground. And then report progress to the town through the select board.
Sounds good.
And then the other issue is membership, which we touched on.
Can I go back to that 8? Can we add into that, making sure they submit an annual report? Only because that's what we're going to add to all, we're going to need to, so report progress can be on any different time, but at least
Yeah.
annually to put that report in there, since we're going to remind everybody about that. And membership?
So membership, I had initially suggested a 7-person committee, 5 at large, plus 1 select board and 1 Concom. So Gary raised the issue of select board and having 2 votes, and I think we need to come back to that in your committee organization thing.
So just to digress for a minute there, the only committees that have a select board member as a voting member are mandated by mass law, which is the Affordable Housing Trust. So in all other cases, veterans is ex officio, and others, if they're present, I don't think there are, will dispense with.
Okay, so I think what I'm going for is similar, ex officio, but the objective was to create linkages, a linkage with the select board and a linkage specifically with Concom. So I think my suggestion at this point is a 5-member board, so that's where the quorum is, with liaisons from select board and Concom, but so that those people, so it doesn't affect quorum if they're not there every time, basically. Because Concom, I think the linkage is important, but they already have significant workload of their own. So the goal is to.
And they have a rep on the CPC, too.
And they have a
yeah.
rep on the CPC, so I don't want to create an undue burden, but I want to create the lines of communication. So I think perhaps if they're able to have someone attend, but it's not, the committee is not dependent on that person for quorum, that's sort of a middle ground.
So we're talking 5 at large then?
5 at large as the committee
Right.
with 2 liaisons, non-voting,
Which is Concom and what?
select board.
But again, I don't see select board members being on other boards. We are the final executive authority, and I don't want to have, prejudgments or additional information on one board member versus the other, that a committee ought to report back to the entire board as a whole, so that one particular member doesn't have additional influence or activity or knowledge beyond the others. So I'll just leave it at 5 at large, and, Conservation Committee as ex officio if the Concom really wants to be on there.
But I thought all select board members were responsible for being liaisons to boards and committees.
No,
Is
there's
that
not. There's no liaisons.
But then what's the veterans?
Is an ex officio, and I just said that's one that was historically put in
The other ones?
because the chairman at the time was a veteran and he wanted to have a seat there. So,
Veterans, wish.
so there's,
and
all those
affordable
others could be dispensed with, and the only one that I can see is Mass General Law says that the Affordable Housing Trust has to have the representative, the chief, the CEO, which is essentially here a select board member on the trust.
So those are the only two places where select board members are liaisons.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
the only one is the Affordable Housing Trust.
That's a seat, a voting seat.
Yes.
Right.
That's
And
the only one.
Veterans is a liaison, or?
No, it's, the
Ex
veterans is ex officio, but has really no need to be there.
And what's the wish?
The wish is because, the select board in previous times had the purse strings on the charitable funds, and the wish now relies on private donations. So essentially, that group, especially if they're going to go to a 503C setup, that they would become, beyond select board purview in some degree, and certainly doesn't need a continuing member on it.
And my only thought is it's a lot of work to be on the select board, to then also liaisons to another committee. I think it's more.
I thought it was what you did, so I guess I didn't understand correctly. Because I thought Peter was on Wish and
I am.
you were on Veteran, right, so, I mean, I
Right.
guess you can see
But there
where
were
I got
only,
the
yeah, but there were
impression.
only three, or.
But those are only because of historical circumstances
But they're not-
that really aren't justified today.
Well, that makes
Okay.
sense to me. I didn't know that either.
All right, well, that's clearer now.
But
So are we done?
but I always wanted, to have the rotating committees and boards and departments coming to the select board on a rotating basis, and so that's how we would get that information, and that liaison concept wouldn't be needed as much. But, so let's go with 5 at large for now. You do the ex officio for the Concom if that's possible, that'd be great. Town energy manager, open space, DPW, ex officios too, or just,
Yeah, the
Work with
idea was
them.
just work with them, basically, because DPW would be electrification of the fleet and so forth, so there's issues that touch on it. That's all it was.
So what do you mean by rotating? Because,
Not formal rotating, so it doesn't have to be there. It's more illustrative.
could we take it out and just use them when needed?
Yeah.
And then I don't feel like we're putting more pressure on those staff members.
Sure.
Is there any wisdom to making 2 of the 5 at-large seats upon initial appointment and the creation of the committee 1 and 2 year seats, so that the whole committee's not turning over at the same time?
Yeah, I think that's our usual
Definitely.
procedure, is to stagger the committees so that, initially there'd be 1 for 1 year, 2 for 2, and 2 for 3, and that would provide a rotation in future years. That's written into most initial charges.
So we've got 5, so I don't know whether we'd be happy just with 1 year, 1 2-year seat, and 3 years, or if we want to.
Well, it'd be 1, 2, 2, so it's a balance, just like select board elections, that should have a balance, one or max 2 coming up each year. So it'd be a 1, 2, 2 going out over the next 3 years.
Yeah. So 1 1-year seat, 2 2-year seats, 2 3-year seats. But then they all become 3-year seats
Yes.
after
Yep.
2 years from now.
Right. And I guess one last question is, say we have the best possible case scenario and 7 people volunteer and they all want to do it. Can you ever add seats to a committee, or is this like?
Just takes another vote of the select board to
Okay.
change it from 5.
So if we
so-
hit the jackpot,
Oh,
we
yeah,
could
yeah.
actually accommodate. Okay, great.
Just want to stick with the odd number, right?
I think so.
Should. Should always.
All right. Well, I think you answered, I mean, you brought it back to what I was hoping for a little bit. So I know it's not your ideal, but I appreciate the,
Fine with it.
with the collaboration and the merging. And I think maybe we would, we have to vote.
So
Are we
do you
voting on
vote
it?
Or do you want me to make the changes and
I think, well,
send it again?
can we not use the template, because we need to lay out the, as you say, the responsibilities there.
Oh, the new
You know,
template.
And, the purpose, we got good authority, we ought to state that this, established by the select board at a certain date, that it is an advisory committee, that type of duration, that we see it as a semi-permanent committee through the 2040 goal set by the state, that membership, we're going with 5, 3-year term of service. We got no specific qualifications, and initial staggering of seats, we determined 3 years. Attendance requirements, do we want to,
You have to attend.
yeah,
So why don't I test drive?
that's right, yeah,
the
test
template?
drive the template, and we'll go with it. All right, sounds good.
Bring it back next,
All right.
Next time.
next time,
Next time.
but it'll be quick.
Yes. Next time is,
21st, I think.
21st.
I don't have that.
21.
11:21. After 11:21 comes the Quint All Boards on November 29th.
22nd.
And then we're into December, regular shifting. Don't forget the holiday party on December 7th. Go.
No, he's the one who's.
Yeah, well, then, nothing else to, I move that we adjourn at, what is it, 8:46 up there?
No, 8:56.
8:56, all right. Too much angle on the
Second.
clock.
It's seconded twice. Go for a vote. Pete?
Yes.
Diane, yes.
Deirdre, yes.
Gary, yes.
It's unanimous.
Ben, yes.
Ben, yes.
Ben, yes.
Thank you. It's
Thanks,
unanimous.
Ben.
Thanks so much for coming from wherever you are.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.